The night was relentless, a heavy blanket of fog and cold wind pressing against the small Texas town. Ethan's truck rumbled down the cracked, abandoned road, headlights cutting through the mist, but revealing nothing but twisted trees and long shadows. Behind him, Samantha shivered, pulling her jacket tighter, her breath visible in the frigid air. Lucas laughed nervously, trying to break the tension, but his voice sounded hollow, swallowed by the oppressive darkness. Maya stayed silent, gripping her backpack like a lifeline, eyes darting at every swaying branch and flickering shadow. They had found the farmhouse by accident, an old rotting structure that locals whispered about but never entered. Its paint was chipped, wood splintered, and windows shattered, jagged edges like teeth staring out into the night. "It's perfect for an adventure," Ethan said, but there was an edge in his voice, the kind that only comes from forcing bravery onto oneself. He parked the truck, and the group stepped into the fog, crunching over dead leaves and debris. The air smelled metallic, like rusted iron mixed with decay, and a chill sank into their bones. The door creaked as they pushed it open, and inside, the farmhouse was a tomb of shadows. Broken furniture lay scattered, some overturned as if a violent hand had thrown them. The floorboards groaned under their weight, echoing through the empty rooms like whispers from another world. On the walls, old stains ran streaked with dark, almost black lines, dried blood crusted over decades, twisting into grotesque shapes. Ethan laughed, trying to sound casual, but even he couldn't ignore the oppressive heaviness pressing on their chests. Samantha's flashlight flickered as they moved through the first room, revealing torn curtains and shattered picture frames. One frame showed a family, smiling under a sunless sky, but the eyes seemed off, too hollow, too dark, as if they followed the group. She shivered, stepping back, almost tripping over a dark stain that spread across the floorboards. Lucas leaned closer, squinting. The stain was sticky, glistening slightly, and the smell hit them like a punch. Iron, decay, something that used to be alive. "I think this place is worse than I thought," Maya whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of their uneven breathing. Ethan shrugged, brushing past her, but as he did, a low, wet squelch echoed from the hall. They froze. Lucas tried to laugh again, but the sound caught in his throat when a hand, or what looked like one, jerked from the darkness, slick with dried blood, fingers bent unnaturally. Maya screamed, stumbling backward, and the hand vanished as suddenly as it appeared. The group moved forward cautiously, every step amplified by the eerie silence. In the next room, the floor was a nightmare of human remains. Bones splintered and caked with dark, sticky blood, some scattered like toys. A chair had been overturned into the corner, and on its seat, a skeletal hand clutched a rusty knife. Ethan's stomach turned, bile rising, but he forced himself to take a step closer. "We shouldn't be here," Samantha said, but it was too late. Something had noticed them. A sudden crash upstairs made them all spin. The ceiling groaned, then cracked, a wet tearing sound as if flesh had been shredded above them. The floorboards shivered beneath their feet. Lucas stumbled back, eyes wide as something, a shadow, a blur, rushed across the wall, leaving streaks of black, sticky blood in its wake. Maya screamed again, and Ethan grabbed her, dragging her toward the staircase. But each step was a horror of its own. The wood felt wrong, almost alive, resisting their weight. As they climbed, the air thickened. It wasn't just the cold or the smell anymore. It was something alive, malevolent, pressing in, tasting their fear. Upstairs, a room door hung half off its hinges. Inside, the walls were smeared with more than just blood. Flesh had been carved, peeled, and pressed into grotesque patterns, shapes that made no sense but screamed of pain. Skeletons hung from hooks, partially charred, and a black substance pooled on the floor, moving slightly as if it had a mind of its own. Ethan's flashlight shook in his hands, illuminating a figure crouched in the corner, eyes glinting red. It moved with impossible speed, and before anyone could react, it lunged. Samantha screamed, and Ethan pushed her out of the way, taking the brunt of the attack. A clawed hand ripped across his shoulder, tearing muscle and exposing white bone beneath, blood spraying like a macabre fountain. Ethan fell, screaming, as the shadowy figure vanished into the darkness. Lucas gagged, covering his mouth, as Maya stumbled over Ethan's writhing body, her hands slippery with his blood. The stench was unbearable, metallic and coppery, clinging to everything, seeping into their skin and hair. They stumbled into the hallway, dragging Ethan, but the house wasn't done with them. Doors slammed shut behind them, trapping them. The walls seemed to pulse, a heartbeat of the building itself, and whispers slithered through the air, soft, taunting. The voices of the long-dead victims. The floor beneath them gave way in a sickening crack, revealing a pit filled with charred, mutilated bodies. One hand reached out, fingers twitching, as if begging for help, then jerked back into the blackness. Lucas vomited, unable to stop, the sound mingling with the wet squelches of movement from the pit. Maya grabbed Samantha, pulling her back, but the house's grip was relentless. Shadows slid along the walls, their forms writhing, dripping with blood that never dried. Ethan's moans echoed as he was dragged by invisible hands into the darkness of a side room, screaming until silence swallowed him. Samantha tried to reach him, but her hands met only cold air and a smear of red that seemed to move like liquid fire. By the time they reached the staircase to flee, it was broken, warped, a trap. Each step threatened to give way, revealing dark pools of viscera below. Something hissed, low and wet, from the shadows. A figure emerged, its skin mottled, teeth jagged, eyes glinting like shards of broken glass. It lunged at Lucas, sinking sharp claws into his thigh. He screamed, tearing at the flesh with his own hands, but it was no use. The figure retreated into the darkness, leaving Lucas barely clinging to life, his screams echoing in the hollow house. Maya and Samantha reached the front door, battered and bloody, but it wouldn't budge. The house seemed to pulse with a life of its own, the walls breathing, the floors groaning. From the corner of her eye, Samantha saw a shadow moving toward them, its face a horrifying mask of stretched skin and empty sockets. She grabbed Maya's hand, and together they slammed against the door, feeling it vibrate under the pressure of unseen hands pushing back. Somehow, with a final scream, the door gave. They stumbled outside into the fog, gasping, coated in sweat, mud, and blood that wasn't all theirs. Behind them, the farmhouse stood silent, as if nothing had happened, but the faint sound of whispering drifted on the wind. Somewhere inside, Ethan's cries echoed faintly, blending with the murmurs of countless others trapped within. Maya and Samantha ran without looking back, the night swallowing them, the fog clinging like a second skin. They didn't stop until the twisted trees and broken road gave way to the safety of the town's dim lights. But the memory of the farmhouse, the smell of blood and decay, the way the shadows had moved, alive, would follow them forever. And in the dark, just beyond sight, the whispers continued, promising that the house would wait and that its hunger was far from sated. Maya and Samantha didn't stop running. The fog seemed thicker now, curling around their legs like grasping hands. Every step on the broken road sounded amplified, a constant reminder that they had not escaped, only fled deeper into a world that seemed to shift and twist with the farmhouse's malevolent will. Behind them, the whispers lingered, carried on the wind, muttering promises of pain, of blood, of inevitable death. The town itself was empty, Streetlights flickered in weak, uncertain pulses, revealing no signs of life except for the occasional flutter of a newspaper or a broken bicycle tossed into a gutter. But the silence was suffocating, unnatural, and Maya could swear she saw shadowy figures moving at the edge of her vision. She tripped over a root, hitting the ground hard. Samantha grabbed her, but as she did, something cold and slick wrapped around Maya's ankle. A hand, human-like but grotesquely elongated, the skin mottled in grey, yanked at her violently. She screamed, spinning, but there was nothing there when they looked. Only the faint, wet smacking of something dragging itself away. Samantha's heart pounded as they reached a small abandoned gas station. The fluorescent lights buzzed and flickered, casting long, jittering shadows. They thought they might be safe, but inside, the horror only deepened. The counter was smeared with a dark, sticky substance, streaked with something that looked horrifyingly like dried intestines. A gurney lay on its side, torn and bent, with what remained of a torso pinned underneath. Its face had been carved into a permanent scream, eyes wide and black, jaw stretched in impossible angles. Lucas's screams echoed in Maya's mind. She could still smell the coppery, metallic stench of blood on her skin. They backed into the storage room, slamming the door. Their breaths came in ragged gasps, but the room wasn't empty. The shelves were lined with jars of preserved body parts, some floating in murky liquid, some in grotesque clumps of congealed blood. Fingers pressed against the glass from the inside, twitching like they were still alive. Maya gagged, retching onto the grimy floor. Samantha grabbed her hand, but the pressure was almost too much to bear. "We have to keep moving," Samantha whispered, though even she felt the pull of the building, as if it wanted them to stay and join the chaos within. From somewhere above, a wet, scratching sound echoed through the building. The floor trembled, and then, with a sickening crack, a portion of the ceiling gave way. Debris rained down, planks, insulation, and something dark and slippery. Samantha screamed as the mass hit the ground with a wet thud, revealing what had caused the sound. A figure, or what had once been human, crawling on all fours. Its face was half gone, flesh shredded and hanging in ragged strips, jaw unhinged and dripping blackened saliva. It lunged at them, dragging a chain of intestines behind it. Maya tried to kick it away, but her foot sank into something soft and wet. It was a body, torn open and emptying its contents across the floor. The creature pounced, tearing a chunk of floorboard into its flesh. But it kept moving, relentless. They ran, bursting out the back door into an overgrown alley. The air was thick with fog and the stench of decay. Their feet slipped in the blood-soaked grass and mud. Behind them, the faint outline of the farmhouse loomed. But it seemed to stretch impossibly, towers rising where none had been before, windows glowing faintly red. From those windows, shadows poured out, human shapes twisted and deformed, their mouths opening impossibly wide to emit screeches that curdled the blood. Maya tripped again, screaming as something cold and wet wrapped around her legs. Samantha pulled, but the hand wasn't enough. A figure emerged from the fog, a humanoid with black, mottled skin, its eyes missing, replaced with deep red pits. Its mouth was a mass of sharp teeth, slick with blood, saliva dripping onto the ground. It leaned down, inhaling Maya's fear, and then lunged. Samantha screamed, hitting it with a nearby pipe. The creature shrieked, recoiling, but the sound drew more of them. Forms crawling, slithering, dripping with blood and muck. They stumbled toward a small riverbank, hoping water might offer some protection. But the water reflected more than just their terrified faces. Shapes swam beneath the surface, pale limbs dragging through mud, mouths opening and closing, gurgling. Samantha screamed as one hand broke the surface, grabbing at her ankle. She kicked and pulled, barely freeing herself. But Maya wasn't so lucky. A shadow lunged from behind, teeth sinking into her shoulder with a wet crunch, dragging her toward the river. Blood spurted in bright arcs, soaking Samantha's jacket and her own hands. Maya screamed, a sound of pure agony, but then the current pulled her partially under. Samantha fought the urge to scream, to jump in, but the shadows multiplied. Something pushed her back, a force she couldn't see but could feel, the air around her thick with menace. Finally, they collapsed near a broken dock, breathless, bloodied, and shaking. Behind them, the fog shifted, almost sentient, and the silhouettes of creatures emerged. Human, but wrong in every possible way. Limbs bent at impossible angles, heads twisted, eyes hollow, teeth glinting in the dim moonlight. One by one, they crept forward, moving in unnatural jerky steps, dragging remnants of the dead with them. Torso halves, severed limbs, dripping intestines. The scene was a massacre, frozen in motion, alive with horror. Samantha shook Maya's unconscious form. Blood poured from multiple wounds, and her skin was pale, cold, a mixture of mud and gore coating her hair. She sobbed, realizing they were too far gone, too trapped in this nightmare. Somewhere in the distance, a familiar scream echoed. It was Ethan, his voice raw with terror. The farmhouse had claimed him, twisted him into one of the things hunting them. Lucas's screams followed shortly after, echoing across the empty town like a chorus of lost souls. The shadows drew closer, filling every corner of the riverbank. Samantha dragged herself backward, clutching Maya, but she could feel the pressure of inevitability, the cold certainty that they wouldn't escape. Her heart raced, blood pumping so fast it felt like it might burst her chest. Something grabbed her ankle, yanking her down into the mud. She fought, kicking and clawing, but the thing was stronger than anything alive. Its face emerged from the mist, a grotesque parody of a human, skin peeling, eyes missing, mouth torn into a permanent grin. It leaned close, whispering in a voice that sounded like bones grinding together, promising death. Samantha slammed her elbow into its chest, ripping herself free, and crawled backward into the fog. The creatures paused, almost contemplative, before the air around them shimmered and pulsed like a heartbeat, alive with malevolence. It was the farmhouse itself, or the entity controlling it, feeding, watching, growing stronger. She realized then that the nightmare was not just the creatures, but the environment, the air itself, the ground beneath their feet. It had absorbed every scream, every death, and now it hunted the survivors with a preternatural hunger. Samantha forced herself to her feet, dragging Maya along. The fog thinned slightly as they neared the outskirts of town, the dim glow of distant streetlights offering a sliver of hope. But even as they ran, Samantha felt the weight of unseen eyes pressing down, shadows flitting just out of vision. The cries of the dead followed them, carried by the wind, echoing through the trees, never letting up. She knew deep down that the nightmare would never end, that the house had left a mark on their minds, their bodies, their very souls. Finally, they stumbled onto the main highway, collapsing into the pale light of an oncoming car. Bloodied, broken, and shaking, Samantha pulled Maya against her, feeling the warmth of what little life remained. But as the car's headlights illuminated their faces, Samantha caught a glimpse of her own reflection in the windshield. Eyes hollow, smeared with blood, hair caked in gore, and in the distance, just beyond the fog, she could swear she saw the farmhouse. Impossibly large, windows glowing red, watching, waiting, hungry for the next victims. The survivors were few, but their terror was endless. And in the silence that followed, Samantha understood the truth. Some horrors don't end. They linger, bleeding into reality, waiting for the next foolish souls to stumble into the darkness.
Please like and subscribe channel Fear Frequency for more horror stories. Thank you.